Here I want to tell you a little bit about a special little side project that I had decided to do. Here is some beautiful wool from some very special sheep. You'll recognize the card as Knitography's logo from Patricia's Farm. Below is the pattern, a special little pattern as a thank you for supporting a wonderful podcast, California podcast. Wool combs. And this fleece was so clean. It's been washed now after I'd had it just on my desk for about a year and admiring it. And now it's been washed, and I found one tiny little bit in that whole little bundle of fleece. And I like to think that it's a piece of the forest from Patricia's farm. Or maybe it's a bit of hay. Either way. So I wanted to show you that, and then I'll come back and show you what my little project is. Good afternoon, and welcome to the My Wool Mitten podcast. My name is Carrie. I'm your host here at the farm. I'm coming to you from Michigan, from the middle of Michigan's Lower Peninsula, and that's the Mitten State. And where we live is just about the middle of the Lower Peninsula. We have a small flock of sheep, not nearly as many as we used to have. We're getting a little older and more feeble, so trying to keep numbers more manageable. We raise them for wool mostly, and to keep the pastures grazed, and for market lambs. And so I just thought I'd stop in and say hello and catch up, show you a few small finished objects, and talk about some making that I did last time that I told you I would show you my way of making ski bands or headbands. Some of you said you'd like to see that, so I think we'll talk about that. And a swap package that I received with some special yarn. And also I need to tell you who won the sock yarn and sock book giveaway from last episode. So I think the light may go in and out. I'm sitting across from the big window and it's overcast right now, so it doesn't look too bad, but we'll see what happens as it comes and goes. So I'll talk to you about what I'm wearing and what I've been working on and what I haven't been working on. Welcome, especially if you're a new viewer. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer, friends and fellow knitters and followers, and just anyone who happens to wander in. So let's get started. All right, first of all, I am wearing a second Bubble Hearts cowl. This pattern is by Sam of Bumblebee Acres Farms, and I talked to you quite a bit about this on the last episode with the first one that I had made. And this is the second one, again with farm yarn, and a little bit chunkier than the last one, and so a little bit bulkier, but I love the pattern. I know I went on about it quite a bit last time, so I won't do that. Well, I will too do that again. I just love the pattern. It's so fun to make, and as usual, I messed up on something. But I think this, there you can really see one of the bubble hearts. And I'm sure it won't be my last one. I'll probably knit some more. It uses up scrap yarn. It uses very little yarn. Once you get the hang of the pattern, it goes quickly. And even though I do tend to always mess up, I've knit both of mine out of quite woolly wool. And so there's a little bit of a maneuver you make with the stitch that probably is easier with superwash wool, because it would, I don't know, just would slip around a little bit more. But I think it's worth the extra effort to have used some of my own farm yarn. So that's another finished project, or finished item, just a small one. And the other finished item that I have, and I could take them off. And no, it's not a funny light. There is some reds and stuff in some of the yarn here. These are wristers, wrist warmers, cuffs, whatever you want to call them. And they were a very special project. The pattern is the Sagastad, if I'm saying that right. If I'm a patron for the Camabornia podcast, and Sophia Camaborn had released the beautiful Sagastad mittens, and the cuff pattern was a free pattern for, or an extra pattern for patrons. And they were so fun to knit. And I want to tell you a little bit about this. If you follow some of the same group of people that I follow on Instagram, and that would be Patricia from Knitography Farms, Sophia Camaborn, Lori from Chickenwood Studio, Maria from Ninja Chickens, Mars from Hey Brownberry, Rachel from Treehouse Knits. Who else? Anyway, a lot of the same people that I follow. You'll know about the knitting retreat that Patricia just recently hosted in Norway. And what a beautiful thing. I had no envy for the travel. I would have loved the experience of seeing the sheep, seeing the history, being with the people, but I hate to travel. So everyone was so generous in sharing their photos and Instagram stories and talking about the experience, and I know there'll be more to come. So it would be really, if you don't follow any of those people, maybe do a little search for it and see. Just, it looks like it was an amazing, incredible event. And so even though I wasn't there, I was there in spirit. And so about a year ago, Patricia had sent me a little handful of locks from the fleece of her sheep. And I kept those little locks near me for all this time with a little postcard from her where I could, if I was thinking of her or if I saw a post from her, and I could just reach over and take a hold of those locks and think about her sheep and her farm and her venture into making and creating and preserving. And so when I was thinking about their event that they were having, I thought, well, I want to do something to follow along with them. And so I took those little locks and I washed them and I combed them, and they were exquisite, of course. And it didn't make a lot of yarn, but I had in mind what I wanted to do. Because Sophia was also going on the trip, I wanted to make these little mitts, and I wanted to include the little bit of Patricia's yarn with my own farm yarn. So I'm going to hold this up and probably, I don't know, this is a Latvian braid, and I did a strand of my hand spun with a strand of Patricia's. And I did that to represent the way that we're connected, that we're entwined across this world when it comes to sheep and wool and fiber and farming. And so that was what that represented to me. Then I did the little pattern, and then at the top I did the garter ridge rows. And I thought, now in the blue is from my hand spun, and then there's a little, let's see, is that focusing? The little row from Patricia's fleece. And I thought that really symbolized walking side by side. And so I took my time with them, and I finished them up on the day that they finished their trip or their journey. And I've been wearing them all the time. I don't know why I never made cuffs like this before. I have fingerless mitts and half mitts, but and this is an old thrift store wool sweater, but there's something about, I made them a little bit more snug than I usually do, blocked them on my Knitography Farms mitten blockers, but they're on my pulse points, they're on my wrists, and they just, I don't know, they're comforting and warming. So here's to all of the wonderful people from around the world who took that journey, to Patricia and all those who helped her make it possible. It just reinforces what wool how it holds our hearts and our hands and connects us. So to all of you, thank you. Oh, Marina was another one who was there, who I know. And then a few others that I've started to follow since then. So go and check those all out. It's really fun. Oh, and also Sarah from Fiber Trek was part of the group that went to Norway. And Sarah she's the wool hero. She's the wool hero. I know that I speak for a lot of other people that she inspired a lot of us to go down this journey. I don't mean for me with sheep. I've had sheep since I was a little girl, but the yarn and the wool and the place and the people and the history and the stories. So it was fun to see Sarah in and amongst the people. One day, Sarah, one day. But one more thing that I wanted to say about the little cuffs that I made from Sophia's pattern is that I used US size 3 needles on 44 stitches. And I think, is that 3.25 millimeter needles? But just in case, that was the size that I made. That just fits so nicely on the wrist. And with the very special, extra special yarn that gave me something to feel a part of the travels and the journeys. So, okay, I think that's all I wanted to tell you about that, and we'll move on. Okay, so those were my two finished objects that I just knit up quickly. I haven't been doing any spinning. I haven't been doing really much other knitting. I haven't felt terrific. I've been falling asleep early. My husband hasn't been feeling very well, and so a lot of extra time taken up there. Chores are going well. Weather is in and out. So I don't know. I just haven't felt it, I guess. But I did film some clips of, in the last podcast episode, I filmed about that I've just been going back to making just rustic old ski bands for around the farm, and also nice thick socks, although I haven't worked on any socks here recently. And I just asked, it's not a pattern, but I thought I would just show you guys how I whipped one together, what steps I took. So I did a little filming of that, and I will insert the pictures and the video either right here or as soon as I'm done talking. So it'll either be spliced in or I'll do it more towards the end. You might notice that I'm in a new location. I'm sorry to wiggle. I've got a cushion behind me and it keeps wanting to slip. I'm sat down in front of this old cupboard, and I thought I was at a good angle to kind of have some good light but not have the really bad glare. I've got a little bit of glare, but so I'm trying that out. We'll see how that works. And I thought this gave a good backdrop for holding things up and showing you. So when I filmed last time, I filmed from the roundhouse, and several of you asked about the roundhouse. It is it's not actually a cabin. It's an old granary on our property here. And I show it a lot on Instagram, talk about it a little bit. But several of you asked about it again, and I thought it might be kind of neat to do a little history and a little feature on that. So, but I wanted to include something special about that. And I haven't quite gotten that finished. And so I've done some filming over there to tell you a little bit about it. And so I think that's probably going to come on another video on the next podcast maybe, or maybe a vlog. And so I'll try to get that put together and share it with you. So I just wanted to let you know that that is coming, but to tell you just briefly that that's an old granary that we use like a cabin now. My husband converted it many years ago. This month we will be married for 27 years. Isn't that great? And so it was long before that, long before I came on the picture, that he had converted that and used it. We don't get to use it as much anymore since he can't get there. I think I mentioned before that I guess I could go there every day, but I feel kind of guilty that he doesn't get to go. So I don't spend as much time there, but I do want to tell you a little bit more about it. So next, I think I will tell you about a swap package that I received. I've got it sitting down here, so you'll hear a little rustling. This came from lovely Anna, who is Caledoniana. Many of you will know her now because one of her sock patterns was the first free sock pattern, the January pattern in Kia's podcast. And so, but Anna and I have been knitting internet Instagram friends for a while, and we did a swap previously, and we decided to do another one. And so she and her friend Sushi got together and got some goodies for me and sent. Their package I got sent late. I wanted to wait till after the holidays, but hopefully it arrives to them soon. But I'm going to try to hold these up, and I'll probably put a picture in too. I shared a picture on Instagram. But look at these beautiful colors. Let me see if I turn them this way, the tags won't be in the way. And there's a little bit here. And these are all naturally dyed. I think all but this one were dyed with avocado. And then a skein or a ball of, it's probably going to be reading backwards, isn't it, of this yarn. And I just saw on someone else's podcast that this is a Norwegian wool, I think. You know, I should have researched that a little better. And then along with that, there were some sweets, which are already gone. And Anna and Sushi happened to have gone to a festival that Patricia was at. And so I received some of Patricia's lovely stitch markers with sheep on them. And so I know what I'm going to make with this. I haven't cast it on yet, but I have a pattern that I'm going to make that will make use of all those colors. So I really enjoyed doing that swap again. And I look forward to them receiving their package. So I guess that's about all I have. No sheep content this time. Sheep are doing okay. I have a call into the shearer. We're waiting to hear back from him when he can come. We won't start lambing for a while yet. And so the last thing that I will do before I close is show you or tell you who won the drawing. That was for this sock book from my stash and this sock yarn. And I will have talked about it in the last episode. And as a bonus, and continuing in the theme of de-stash, and because there were some lovely comments made, I wish I could send the prize to everyone, but I have this skein. And this is from, you remember maybe back in the day, that Socks That Rock, that's probably backwards, was the hot thing for a long time. It's a high yardage. And I just thought these colors looked a little bit spring-like, Easter-like. And so I'm going to give away this skein of yarn. These are from my stash, but they're perfectly fine. And as long as people don't mind getting a de-stash yarn, but I'm not knitting with the fine yarns anymore, and especially not commercial yarn. So I have rehomed a lot of it, but I thought, well, I'll gift some of it as well. But there might also be a spinning giveaway coming up with some of our fibers. I'm looking up this way because I'm watching the sun coming in the window. So I hope you all are well. I enjoy visiting with you, and I appreciate all of the comments and all of the thoughts. And I hope you'll come back for more. And thanks again for following along. Have a wonderful weekend. Be sure and go out and vote if you're in the States and you're one of the primary states on Tuesday. We will be there. I happen to have a doctor's appointment that day, and I can vote too. So y'all take care, and we'll talk to you real soon. Thank you for everyone that left a comment to participate in the giveaway for the sock book and the skein of commercial sock yarn. And the winner is Lynn Sullivan. And so Lynn, I did a reply to you on YouTube, but if you see this, and if you haven't already contacted me, could you tag me if you're on Ravelry? I am mywoolmitten, or on Instagram as mywoolmitten. And if not, well, message me there, or leave a message below and I will send you my email address. But congratulations, Lynn. And then, because there were so many nice entries, and because I came across another skein of sock yarn, I decided to give a second one away. Now, the colors are totally different, so although there are some kind of fall colors in here, but I don't know, I thought it was a little bit Easter-like or spring-like. And the winner of this skein of yarn is Sally Blank. And Sally, I have sent you a message on Ravelry because I had your Ravelry name. And if by chance you really despise this color and don't want it, would you let me know and maybe I can draw for another winner? Thanks again, everybody, for leaving your comments. I wish I could have given a prize to everyone. Now that concludes this giveaway, this stash giveaway, and we will maybe see about doing some spinning fiber giveaway in a future episode. I'm gathering all the things I need to start another one of the scrappy little hand-spun headbands to show you how I make it. So I have a crochet hook and scrap yarn or waste yarn to do a crochet provisional cast on. I do that over a straight needle, and then I'll switch over to these circulars. I have some hand-spun Icelandic for the outer layer of the headband. And then this is some quite thin roving, and I'll knit this as the inner layer of the headband. And then, of course, a cup of coffee. All right, let's see how well I can do this one-handed. So I did the crochet provisional cast on. That's what the brown yarn is there. And I picked up with my outer layer, which is the hand-spun Icelandic. And you knit for however wide you want your ear band. For me, it's generally about 15 rows. I did 16 or 18 this time just because I wanted to use up what I had left, and I could have done even one more row. So see, I'm just knitting in the round, and this is on 54 stitches. And then I've done one purl row. So now I'm going to pick up with my softer yarn, which in this case is going to be some quite thin roving, and I'm just going to draft that out a little bit more and knit with that for, let's say I did 16 rows here, so I'm going to do 15 rows coming back. Now here I've finished knitting both the outer layer with the coarser Icelandic yarn. This is the softer layer that'll be next to the ears that I knit with the roving, And then because I'm going to be doing a sewn bind off, cast off, the roving is pretty hard to stitch with. And so I knit one more row with the rougher yarn, the actually spun yarn. And now where we did that purl row, sorry if I'm moving too fast, where we did that purl row creates kind of a fold line. Here's the brown yarn that's the provisionally cast on stitches that I'm going to be able to take out. And so all I'm doing now is I'll be tucking this up in. So don't even have to worry about your ends on the inside. And here, let me set the camera down for a minute and tuck that in and come back and show you. So tucked up in, and it's kind of awkward at first, but like here's the cast on edge. Here's where we're going to be picking up stitches and then basically doing like a Kitchener stitch together. And I just do that with a single double pointed needle, and I do like 6 stitches at a time and work. And then I'll come back and show you that in progress. Now I've almost come to the end, and so I'm going to try to show you here on the double pointed needle is where I've just I'm picking up 6 at a time off of the provisional cast on, lining it up with the row of live stitches here, and I'm just working Kitchener stitch like I was closing the toe of a sock. And to me it really mimics that tubular cast on. So I've just got a few more to go, and then I'll come back and show you it all closed up. So I hope that gives you a little detail of what I was trying to explain in words. I don't consider this a tutorial, just showing you maybe how it looks in each step. Here now I've just finished doing my Kitchener stitch bind off, and this tickles me to no end. I've got to tighten this down, but I wanted to use up that last bit of the hand spun, and look at, I came to just a few inches. So I'll tuck that in, and then I'll show you how it looks all finished. Here's the nubby soft side, and here's the outer layer. So maybe there's another way to do this that you guys might know to tell me, or maybe there's a name for this, but I just like it because it really looks the same, and it's super stretchy. It's a little lumpy looking because of the using the roving instead of a yarn, and then this was kind of a thick and thin yarn. But so there's another headband finished, and it took, if I'd been able to work on this straight through, I started it at 2 o'clock yesterday. It's 5 o'clock today, the next day, but I slept, I did chores, I did supper, dishes, all of that. And then when I was nearly finished, I didn't have good light. So really you could finish these in just a couple of hours. So what do you think? Think you might try one? Let me know if you do. You can probably see from my rosy nose and rosy cheeks that it is cold today. There's straw. I'll be putting some extra straw downstairs for bedding.